We live in the most connected era in human history, yet so many of us feel more disconnected than ever. The digital age has given us unlimited access to information, but what about support? What about deep, meaningful relationships? In today's episode, we're going to explore 3 practical ways for you to stay connected online and offline using the right digital tools. So whether you're looking for emotional support, community, or just better communication, we've got you covered. Stick with us. Hey everyone, John here. 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 Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. Hey everyone, John here. Welcome to the Leaders Leading Leaders podcast. I'm so happy that you decided to join us today. This episode, we are going to talk about the digital age, online communities, and how, whether you're online or offline, you can develop deep, meaningful relationships, which that's what anybody really wants. As human beings, we want to be connected to other human beings. We want to have relationships and fellowships, and we can do that in a digital environment. If anything that we took out of the pandemic was the digital age help us stay connected as human beings. It was tough. Not hugging, trust me, I'm a hugger, not hugging people, not shaking hands, not really being awkward and not knowing whether when we got back together, whether it was a fist bump, a shake hand, or just a simple kind of fake high five. But we came back together. We developed in-person relationships again. We were with our close loved ones during the pandemic. So those relationships got stronger. And there's one thing that the digital age did was it strengthened the interconnectivity, and it taught us that we can survive using digital platforms and digital tools. So today we are going to uncover 3 practical ways that you can use digital tools to help support your relationships. So let's get into it. The first one that I want to talk about is finding your digital community. And this is something that whether you are researching a topic, whether you are looking at a diet that you want to start, whether it's a workout plan, whether it's how to crochet, how to knit, how to sell a home, put your house up for sale, how to, whatever you want to do, the sky is the limit when it comes to digital communities. Facebook groups are the first thing that comes to mind. In my generation, that's normally where we go. There's certain Facebook groups that I go for my bourbon club. There's certain Facebook groups that I go for my running club. There's certain Facebook's groups that are for fishing here in the state. I mean, you name it, you can find an online community of like-minded individuals that you can connect with. So that's the first point is, many people can feel lonely despite all of this. And the important thing, once you do find a digital community, you have to interact. It's no different than an in-person community. If you have an in-person running club and you never show up to the meetings or you never show up for the group runs, how's that going to leave you feeling? Like an outsider still. So you have to interact with the community itself. Just like if it was offline, do it online, okay? Put a question in the chat on running shoes, or, hey, what's everybody's favorite sock to wear, or running watch. I mean, you name it. There's no reason why you can't put a question in there. There's several dog communities. I have a Labrador. I have a Chihuahua. You can put in there, what are you feeding, your lab? Where can you take your lab where there will be other labs? Whatever question, put it in there. The other thing is answer questions. If you know the answer or you've been researching something, throw an answer in there. That's your way of letting others know that you're adding value to that particular online group. That makes sense? So for those of us, guess what? We don't have a lot of time, and there's not a lot of in-person time outside of work, in the kids, in cooking, doing laundry, fixing up the house. Whatever you're doing, whatever life is consuming you with today, online communities are a great way to still stay connected with the hobbies and the things that we love to do. So be active. Don't just scroll. Make sure you're commenting. Make sure you're asking questions, and find a community that shares your beliefs and your values. Pretty simple, right? You can do that on Facebook. You can do that on YouTube. You can do that on Reddit. I mean, there's a number of different communities. Each one of the platforms have communities now. Instagram, Twitter. So you can get into these communities pretty easily. A lot of them have a certain number of questions, or there's guidelines and rules. But for the most part, it's pretty easy to get accepted into an online community. Then it's your responsibility to engage. And if they have in-person meetups, show up to one or two of them. Always great to put a face to the name. I remember during the pandemic, and I joined a bourbon community, and we all joked when we met up because we knew each other online. We knew each other by our profile pics. And sometimes people would show a pic of their dog, or, just a scenic pic, or of their family. So we joked that we're going to create buttons of our profile pics, and that's how we could distinguish who is who. It's funny, but in the end, that's how close we had gotten as an online bourbon community here in Oklahoma City, to where we could tell each other just by the tone of voice and the things that you said, and of course the bourbon that you like. So that is the first thing. Find your digital community, and think of digital communities as tools. Okay, just a tool, not a replacement for real relationships. We still have to have those in-person relationships, whether it's with a significant other, or it's with your friends, or it's with your family. Whatever those significant relationships, digital groups aren't meant to replace that. We still need a little bit of both. What it does, though, it enhances our ability to communicate. And if you got a short amount of time that you get to spend in person, you can continue that into your digital community where you still stay connected. We need to be connected more than any time in history. We need each other to get through difficult times. We need each other to share the great moments of our life, and the digital presence allows us to do that. So that's the first thing. Find your digital community. Make sure you think of digital communities as a tool and not as a replacement for real relationships. So the second topic I want to talk about today with you is deepening your personal relationships with technology. So take out your journals, take out a sheet of paper. Again, I want this podcast to be an active listening session, not just passive. So here are some things that you can do to deepen those personal relationships with technology. And you can use this in a work environment. You can use it in your personal environment. So I want you to stay in that mindset as we're working through these, and I'll provide some examples. Digital tools can enhance the real life relationships instead of replacing them. So we talked a little bit about how we can do that in the first segment. But in this segment, the very first thing is use video or voice more often. FaceTime. My little granddaughter. I absolutely love to get FaceTimes from my granddaughter. Normally it's from my son, who my daughter-in-law may have left to run an errand. And so to keep her preoccupied, she calls Papa and she calls Grandma. And it's the best call ever, right? It is way different than they just called and I got to talk to her, but she gets to see our facial expression. She gets to see what we're doing. We always ask her if she wants to come over, and she always says yes. So, lights me up to think about that call. Use FaceTime to deepen that relationship, deepen that connection. During COVID, during the pandemic, we ran into many digital kind of online video type systems. It was Alexa, or it was the in-home, version of FaceTime. We had family gatherings on FaceTime. Use FaceTime to help. The other thing, as far as voice, use voice texts. nowadays, it's always hard to decipher a text message, especially if it may be a conversation that's controversial a little bit. So you make a reply and it could be a one-word reply. For me, I don't like texting, so I keep it short. Well, people who want a little bit more meaningful response may take that as John's upset or John's just being short, when that's not the case. So a good voice text solves that problem. You hear the intonation, you can explain a little bit more. It's just a better way, in my mind, if you are going to text, voice text. Voicemail. I don't really leave too many voicemails anymore, but if I got to get a message across or get some information out to somebody, I'll do that. I'll leave a voicemail if they don't answer, letting them know, especially if they're traveling or something, something important that went on, or just that I missed them. I'm thinking about them as they're traveling. It's a nice way when somebody gets to the destination and the phone activates again when they're getting off the plane and they can listen to that message. And it's just something simple from me that lets them know that I'm thinking about them. So again, digital tools can enhance our real life relationships, and we can do that through FaceTime. Talked about my granddaughter, and we can do that through voice text. Business. So if you're in the business world, we use Microsoft Teams at work. I love to first I ask permission. Hey, can I give you a call? I'm always on video. Sometimes the receiver or the caller doesn't get on video, but it's a great way for them again to see my body posture, my facial expressions. And guess what? It lets them know that they have my undivided attention because I'm looking into the camera and I'm looking at their picture, communicating. And again, it enhances those in-person relationships. So Teams is a good way. And then again, you can use voice text on business phones or leave voicemails. Even now, our phones are connected via IP to our computers, so we don't even have to have a physical phone at our desk. We answer the phone with our computer, just as if they were calling a regular phone. So those are great ways to use video or voice more often to enhance. The second one is leverage shared digital experiences. So all my gamers out there, you're going to really love this because this is speaking directly to you. So those shared digital experiences like online games. I have a 16-year-old. He has a PC. He doesn't even have a game console. Although there's game consoles out there. You get online. I don't think you even buy games anymore. You just buy them online and then store them on your computer. That's an example of a shared online experience. So he gets on his game, whatever they're playing. He has his soccer friends that don't necessarily live around here. He plays on a competitive team and they live all across the state. So he can have that shared experience. They get all online. They play games. They're in there chatting it up. It's competitive. And then when they get together at a game or get together at practices, they talk about it. So they have that experience outside of the in-person environment to rally them together, to connect them together. And it's not just kids that play video games. I'm not a gamer myself, but I know I have some friends that are gamers, and I'm sure if you're one of those out there in the Go Be Great community, you know exactly what I'm talking about. It adds that level of camaraderie that we can have, and gamers are agnostic. There's females, there's males, there's the age difference is all there, right? So that's an example of how we can leverage shared digital experiences through online games, or you can even watch shows. I know my wife has a group and it's like a Netflix group. And so they watch different shows on Netflix and they talk about it, or they recommend other shows, right? So you see this connection thing? You kind of get the theme here on how online can enhance offline relationships and vice versa. But you need both. I'm not advocating for only online relationships, but I am saying that there's a lot of bad things on social media. There's a lot of bad things when it comes to gaming as far as distractions, and we're going to talk a little bit about that in the third segment. But in this segment, I want to spend time talking about the enhancements that those online tools can make to our in-person, offline relationships. The third one, directly what I was mentioning earlier, was beware of overuse. So here, you have to set boundaries. You can't stay online to ignore your offline, if that makes sense. There's one thing that we've instituted is when Jen and I go to bed, we make sure that we put down our electronics. When we're eating out at dinner, we put down our electronics. There's certain times of the day where I don't look at my phone for at least the first 30 minutes in the morning because I'm into my offline relationships, myself, others, sending out my gratitude, all of those things in my morning routine that I do, that the phone, my online relationships will be a distraction to my offline. So set those boundaries. I'm not here to tell you what they are. You know you best. You know where you can scroll, catch yourself on the couch or catch yourself, scrolling through your phone and all of a sudden 30 minutes goes by. Okay. If you want, set a timer. That's a great way that I've heard of people setting that boundary, limiting their online relationships so it doesn't impact their offline performance or offline relationships. So use technology to feel closer, but not distracted, to enhance those offline relationships, those in-person relationships. Don't let it distract you while you're in or with an offline or an in-person relationship. Make sense? Okay. So that's the second thing, deep and personal relationships with technology, how to do that through online communities, how to do that through using FaceTime and voice texts, and then making sure you set some boundaries there so you don't overuse and abuse. The third thing I want to talk to you about is seeking and offering support. Again, pointing back to the pandemic, we relied on online support systems. We had to. We couldn't go out. We were quarantined and we did that through teledoc. I can't tell you how many medical appointments that I once would show up to the office. Now I was having with a doctor on the other side of my iPad or on the other side of my phone. They could call in prescriptions. They could do pretty much everything, diagnose. Now, when it came to vitals and things like that, there were even some apps. A lot of times they'd send you out a blood pressure cuff or send you out an oximeter to measure your blood oxygen level and heart rate and things like that. So the tools, what I'm trying to say, the medical tools, they could ship those out to you. And that way, if you had to call, you were there. Therapy. I mentioned I was been to therapy for 20 plus years. That didn't stop during COVID. What did my therapist do? We talked to each other online. FaceTime, as I mentioned earlier, to have conversations. I still have online therapy sessions. So again, these are examples of how digital support is important, both from a receiving and a giving support. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Digital places, if anything, were a big piece of my emotional support and practical support. Okay. So the first topic here is those use of apps, those use of health apps and support apps. Now, one thing that I continue to do, and you guys have heard me talk about this, is I work out. I work out at least 4 to 5 days a week. And there got to a point probably 4 weeks ago where I started to get bored. I did kettlebell workouts in my garage gym. I had a wall. This isn't any surprise. It was a whiteboard, my big idea board, but I'd put my workouts up there and I kind of play tic-tac-toe or popcorn throughout the day just to kind of mix it up, right? And I had barbells and I had dumbbells and all the things out there, but I mostly just stuck to kettlebells and I love to run. So 4 weeks ago, I was like, I got to mix this up a little bit. So what happens? I get online and I find an app, a close friend of mine. She was using this app and she was posting pictures and I kind of was interested in it because it looked like it was, short 45-minute workouts-ish, 30 to 45 minutes. Perfect, right what I was looking for. And so I downloaded the app. In the coach on there, you pick your coach, you tell them what you want to do, whether you want to bulk up or just be fit or lose weight, and it suggests coaches. Well, I've been doing that for the past 2 weeks. It's an absolute fabulous app, but that's an example of how an app has provided a health benefit to me. I don't have to go to a gym to get a coach. I got an online coach. I use everything in my workout in my garage gym and I get a full workout and it's great. It changes. It's different. I can feel a difference, and that's what matters. So that's an example of how you can use app on a phone. Again, remember, we're talking about support here in the digital age. So that is helping support my health and wellness goals. The second one that I want to talk about, and again, it's not giving and receiving. So the second one under seeking and offering support is being a supportive digital friend. I mentioned that FaceTime that my granddaughter gives me a call. That's supporting me. I mean, when I'm not feeling well or I'm down on myself that day, it just takes that one FaceTime from my granddaughter. Everything just doesn't matter anymore. She's the only thing. She's the light in our family. And she brings such energy and she brings such joy. But make sure that you're showing up online just as you would in person. That is one of the reasons why I get on camera. Whenever I call somebody at work on Teams, I'm on camera. I want to show up for that individual just as if we were having an in-person conversation. I want them to know that they have my undivided attention. I'm not multitasking and texting on my phone or writing an email or looking over on another screen. I'm here with them. I see them, and that goes a long way with them being felt seen and them being felt heard. Okay, so make sure that we're supportive. And that goes the same with FaceTime conversations. It goes the same with really voice conversations. Be present, stay present as if they were right in front of you. Don't do anything different than if you were in a room talking to each other. Okay, don't get distracted. Give them your full attention. And you'd be surprised half the time if we were just to pay attention for at least a third of the time that the meeting was scheduled for, we'd be done and over with. I'm talking like 15 minutes. In my life, especially the experience now, there's not any meeting that needs to last over 20 to 30 minutes. Half of it, people aren't paying attention for anyways. So get the message out, have a good agenda, get that done. We'll talk more about agendas because that is one of the things that I always send out with my meeting invites, and it's an important part, especially in a work environment. So be a supportive digital friend. The last third one that we're going to talk about in this segment, remember we're talking about seeking and offering support in the digital age, is balancing online and offline. So going back to the first two topics that we talked about, make sure you have a balance. When you feel yourself getting too heavy on the online, you almost feel as if I feel as if I'm numb. I've been stuck in the house for 3 days, 2.5 days because of the weather outside. It's been real slick and icy. I've been working from home. I've been connecting with people all day long, every day for the past 2.5 days. But guess what? I am a in-person people, and that's where I get my energy. And so for me, I start to feel drained. That's what the balance means for me. I gotta have a balance. I can communicate well. I talk into this camera. I talk to you in the Go Be Great community. I imagine everybody's faces out there. That's how I'm able to talk to a dark lens on a camera. But for the most part, I love being out, talking to people, interacting with people, seeing and feeling their energy. There's that energy that we bring that's a 6-foot radius around us. And you can feel people when they're the energy givers. It's great. It's fabulous. I mean, I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it for those of you that are listening, see here on the YouTube. But again, got to balance our in-person and our online interactions and our relationships. If there's one takeaway from this conversation, it is that you got to find a balance. You can't use online to substitute for offline and in-person and vice versa. You got to have a good balance of both. Okay. So it's not just about receiving support digitally, but it's also giving support digitally. Check on your friends. Check on your family. Last episode, I talked about in the morning, I write down 6 people that I connect with. Some of those people I connect with in person. Some of those people I connect with digitally. But I offer support through digital means, just checking on people, letting them know that I see them, letting them know that I'm proud of them, letting them know that I love them. You never know where somebody is at and what that message will do for their day. Might just brighten up their day. Might turn a bad day into a good day because of you, because you decided to send that thank you, that digital message of support to those individuals. So let's recap what we talked about today, because again, I want this to be active. So write down these 3 points because there's going to be a challenge at the end as always. First, find your digital community. These are the people who share your beliefs, who share your values. I talked about my running club. We run, we meet up, we talk about different things, watches and shoes and socks and running shorts and all the things that, entails in running. So make sure that you find your digital community, and then don't just be a passive. Just like in this podcast, I don't want you just to be passively listening and scrolling. I want you to be active in the community. That's going to let people know that you're adding value. And then when you show up in person, that's half the battle. They know you already. You don't have to spend a lot of time. For those introverts out there, trust me, this works. I'm introverted and I get to know people online. So when we get offline in person, that's where the real connections are. All right. The second one that we talked about was deepening those relationships. And we're doing this through FaceTime. We're doing this through keeping your camera on when you're making a video call. We're doing this through our voice texts or our voicemails, making sure that, we share those digital online experiences through gaming. And then we find the right balance. We find the right balance. We set some boundaries and make sure that we're not abusing either one. And then last but not least, giving and receiving that support digitally is important. So the digital apps, the health apps, I mentioned the workout apps. There's several different apps. There's running apps out there. There's Couch to 5K. There's weight loss apps. There's emotional support apps. Whatever you're looking for, I promise there's an app out there. Just Google it and it'll pop up. Make sure that you're supportive digital friends. So check on your friends. There's not an excuse anymore why we can't check on our friends, why we can't get out there and make sure that others are doing well and others know that we're here to support them. And then balance your online and offline. So here's the challenge for you. We just talked about 3 practical ways for you to get support digitally to balance your offline and in-person support. I want you to take one of those techniques, those tricks, and put it to use this week. Okay? And share down in the comments. I want to hear. Come back. Let me know what you did. I'm going to hold you accountable. I promise to be accountable myself because I got some things that I started as I was journaling this morning that I am going to incorporate. Some of these things, as I was writing things down, it was like, you know what? I need to start doing that. I used to do it. I don't do it. So I'm going to hold myself accountable too. But let us know how you're doing. I hope you enjoyed this episode today. I believe in you. Thank you very much for spending your time with us. Talk to y'all later. Go be great. Bye-bye. If you like what you're hearing, do us a favor. Click on that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up or leave a comment. That lets us know that what we are putting out benefits you. If you want additional information or resources or learn how to work with me, head on over to thejohnespinosa.com, because when we become better versions of ourselves, it helps us get others to where they're going. Go be great.